Jonathan Smith, he said this game against Michigan, it's coming at a good time. What exactly would a win mean for this program, though?
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, Locked On College, for $20 off your first purchase. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, welcome to another hate week here. That's right. I guess welcome to you Michigan fans. I know that you guys are out here. You can never quit this show too. Hey, whether you're on this side, that side, please rate, review, subscribe. Unless you're a rival fan, then just don't rate the show. Don't even bother. Guys, we're going to talk about, yeah, you guessed it, rivalry week, because Jonathan Smith spoke about it today at the press conference. And then we are joined by a guy who's won 3 of these Paul Bunyan trophies himself. That's right, former linebacker Chris Frey. He joins the show for segments 2 and 3 to talk a little bit about this year's team, his memories from his playing days in this rivalry. Great chat with him coming up in the second and third segment. But guys, let's hear from the head coach, because as he does every Monday, Jonathan Smith spoke in front of the media today, and yeah, he was pretty blunt about it, saying, quote, "This season, things haven't gone our way, but I think the Michigan game comes at a good time to galvanize our group." You can throw any cliche that you want out there. All of them are going to be true. You want to call it gut check time? Yeah, that's a good one. Is it sink or swim time? Yeah, I seem to think that they've been drowning a little bit, but yeah, you lose this game, we might not be treading in chin-high water. It might be over our heads at this point, but let's just talk about what a win would mean here. And of course, just like you said, it would galvanize the group. I mean, Jonathan Smith wasn't shy when he talked about what a win would mean for this Michigan State team. He said it would be an awesome opportunity to change the tide. This would be a tide turner. And he also said, quote, "I know it could change our season." And I know it sounds like pretty dramatic, pretty drastic, but guys, I think a lot of us can agree that he's right. Like, this is last call to kind of change the vibe of the season, if you will. Change how the mood is, whether that's in the fan base, and let's not kid ourselves, maybe even more so in the locker room too. A locker room that's kind of been questioned the last few weeks over, okay, well, do they really have the fire, the passion? Didn't seem like it against UCLA, but you saw a little bit more of it against Indiana. Aiden Childs talked about how proud he was of the effort. Can you parlay that into playing Michigan? Would that even matter against Michigan? Even though they're having a down year, it's still better than what you're doing. What have you? I know one thing, though, is that this one is a big game for the man, Jonathan Smith. Okay, and he was asked directly about it. He said, "What does a win here do for you?" Not the players, not the program, not the team. You, Jonathan Smith, you the human, what would this do for you? Now, he skirted around it, as he does. I think it was a good leadership answer. He talked about what this would mean for the program. Right? For the fan base, like just for everyone involved, not just him, because he's going to be all right regardless, right? He's cashing out at least $30 million in a buyout, even more if he stays here to coach the next few years. But look, this would change the locker room mindset. I don't think that's being too cliche or going down on too far of a limb there. And it also puts a bowl game back in your sights. Yeah, you'd be 8 games into the season. You'd be now sitting at 4-4, renewed energy, which I know just sounds like rah-rah, woo, like just an intangible that doesn't matter. This can fire up a locker room and actually show that, yeah, there's reason to believe in these last 4 games that you might be underdogs in, but 4 games that are all gettable. Against Minnesota, against the Penn State team that, wow, do they not look like the Penn State team we all thought they would earlier this year? Against an Iowa team and then against a Maryland team. You beat Michigan. Can you find 2 more wins in the midst of that? Hey, you know what? Sometimes self-belief is all that you need to get you over this little hump and out of a slump. So that's what you could do against Michigan right here. So here's what a win would mean just for Jonathan Smith. I know that he didn't want to answer it personally, but I'll just do it for him because why not? I got the time. I got a microphone. I got a webcam, and this is just what I do for a living. So a win here for Jonathan Smith. I don't know if it douses all the flames of the hot seat that he is in right now, but man, it calls the dogs off of you. I know I've been pretty mean the last 2 weeks after that UCLA game. I haven't said the nicest things about this program, but yeah, you get yourself another honeymoon phase. If not for nothing else, at least another week before you head onto the road to play Minnesota. Who wouldn't like that? I'm sure Jonathan Smith wouldn't hate that. But if you lose God, doesn't it seem like this is your last shot sort of thing? I mean, not to, sound threatening like I have an ultimatum or anything, but doesn't it kind of feel like that right now where, hey, if you lose this game, this is going to be the most passionate the fan base will be for the rest of the season. It's already been a pretty loud and growing majority of, yeah, we're ready to just move on from you. And oh, by the way, the athletic director, I'm sure, is hip to all of this. How his fan base, how his donors feel about all this. I mean, the people are going to be really upset if you lose to Michigan, as we are every year that we lose to Michigan. Especially if you lose to Michigan and for some reason, and this would just be so disgusting, but like if the team shows like lack of fire again, lack of passion, if you will, lack of concentration, lack of focus, whatever buzzword you want to use, something that we saw against UCLA, right? And it's actually something that Jonathan Smith talked about, because I don't think there was a lack of concentration. I don't think there was like a focus with last year's team, but he did say after the game that, you know what, that kind of caught me a little off guard here. When he talked about it this year, like I don't want to say like passion or the energy, because I think there was that for the rivalry game last year, just clearly, even he admitted it, again, like not as much as he thought that he would need to have for the game, or his team rather to have for the game. But he didn't shy away from it today at media availability. I mean, he said that they're, yes, going to use this passion, this different rivalry juice that you get during practice, and saying, quote, using it within a disciplined approach. He was, very adamant in saying, yeah, you want to be fired up for this rivalry. You do want to get out there and play with like a stick of dynamite in your you-know-what. But you also got to do it within like the bounds of the rules here, right? You can't go overboard, and that's actually something we talk about with Chris Frey here in the next segment. That's going to be a tough line to toe, because, yes, that is a very thin line in the game of football between playing with a lot of energy against your rival and then, one step too far, and then that's 15 yards, and that's a flag and possibly ejection from the game, right? So, again, Coach Smith talked about playing through the echo of the whistle not too long after it. But it's also something that they've talked about with their team dating back to the summer. He was asked how he's preparing guys for this, because also in this day and age of college football, Michigan State's no different than most of the teams. A lot of turnover on the roster. A lot of guys not from the state of Michigan. A lot of guys that probably don't know all too much about this rivalry other than, yeah, you played for a Paul Bunyan trophy. It's pretty cool. I guess, no, like there is deep-rooted hatred. So going back to the summer, Smith talked about having guys from the state speaking to the team. I'm sure has experienced players, maybe not even from the state, like a guy like Jordan Hall, who's been here for 3 years, talking and getting everyone on the same page as to what to expect for this game. So, yes, you got to come out expecting, what you learned last year. And it wasn't happy to hear last year that, and I don't think Jonathan Smith meant like, oh, wow, I was so thrown off guard. It was crazy. No, it was just maybe he was at like a 8 out of 10. He just needed to be at a 10 out of 10, and it really blew him back. Like, no, this ain't Oregon State, Oregon. Like, this has legitimate hatred fueled into this rivalry. So I'm sure that took him a little aback. Hopefully the players can be ratcheted up to speed as close as they could possibly be going into this game. And hopefully they could also address this issue here. Just two other quick notes here. He was asked about tackling. And he just basically, said some coach speak answer. Yeah, we got to practice it. But I did want to pull out tackling here, because let's just start getting into like just bit by bit previewing this game. Michigan, on their ground game, they are pretty good at forcing missed tackles. As a matter of fact, when they run the ball, they are forcing the third most missed tackles amongst running backs in the Big Ten. And Michigan State, as we've seen, unfortunately, they walked into last week's game against Indiana as having the third most missed tackles. So you want to key to the game this early in the week. We're going to be getting a lot more into the weeds of this matchup here later on this week. But that's just one that I'm circling right there. Can Michigan State find a way to tackle at some point this week? Because, yeah, Michigan, I don't like to be complimentary of them. They got a good ground game, though. Okay. And then two other things really quick here. Injury issues. The first from Michigan State side of things. Nikai Martinez, the safety that's been in and out all season long. And Stanton Ramil, your left tackle, who's missed the last few weeks due to an injury. Jonathan Smith said they were, quote, closer, but still going to wait until the end of the week for that. And on the other side of the aisle here, Michigan, they got a pretty big injury coming out of their last game. Evan Link, their starting left tackle, he's going to be missing some substantial time, maybe until the end of the season. But at least we know that he's not going to be playing this week. Will Michigan State actually make that matter, though? Can they actually have a pass rusher that can exploit maybe a weakness at left tackle? Stay tuned. This Saturday, 7:30, NBC. All right, guys, we're going to get into it with Chris Frey. But first, need to talk everyone's ear off about Monarch Money, guys. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth between 401ks, savings, investments. I get it. It's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Now, it's helped me organize my accounts. We're talking tracking spending, getting a better handle of my investments. Whatever it is, we get to do it without touching a spreadsheet. It is delightful, guys. That's right. Say goodbye to Excel and say hello to this financial opportunity. Do not let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Again, monarch.com. Also, FanDuel, they're keeping football Saturdays, Sundays, Mondays, or at this point, God, there's a game every day of the week. It's amazing here. And as if, you don't like football that much, you just need a little bit extra sizzle on that steak. Go ahead, spice it up with FanDuel. And if you're a new customer, they have an offer you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, just pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you will unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. At the time of recording right now, Michigan State 14.5-point underdogs at home against Michigan. That's steep. If you think it's too steep, take the Spartans. If you're not inspired by what you've seen so far this year, lay the points, take the Wolverines. I don't care. Just do it over at FanDuel, guys. What are you waiting for? Get in on all the action this football season at FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Guys, I'm fired up for this one. I'd be excited for this any normal week, but since it's Paul Bunyan week, yes, a little bit of juice added to this one because it is former linebacker, forever three-time Paul Bunyan winner. Yes, we are talking with the one, the only Chris Frey. Chris, happy rivalry week. Do you have the hate running through your blood right now, or do you have to be closer to kickoff for it really to kick in here?
You can call it rivalry week. I call it hate week.
Excellent.
It's hate year every year, but this week especially, it doesn't need to be. It doesn't matter if it's Monday or Saturday. The Sunday following last week's game,
sure.
The second that game before ends, it's hate week. It's time to go.
Just because I want to talk about this Michigan State team first, but let's just go ahead and go off script immediately. In your playing days, the Saturday before rivalry week ends, is the Saturday even over before you're already juiced up about the Michigan game? Does it kick in Sunday, or when did it really kick in for you as a player that, oh yeah, it's go time against these guys?
Before the season starts. I mean,
okay.
You walk into the building, and the first thing you see is a countdown to the day that we play Michigan. There's 1 year round. Well, at least when I was there was 1 year round that was just counting down the days every year. So seeing that every day, you have a countdown for the game that week, and whoever you're playing. But before you even see that, you see the countdown for the Michigan game. So yeah. It's a year-round thing. I mean, we're always preparing for it. We're always doing extra stuff just for that game, and obviously that's why we were so dominant during my time there.
Sure. Today at media availability, Jonathan Smith talked about playing with passion, playing with a heightened sense of energy, with it being the rivalry game, a lot of emotion. Playing to the echo of the whistle, but never letting it boil too far, still staying disciplined. How hard was it to do that against a team that you hate so much like Michigan? Was it just the toughest task, almost even harder than playing the game itself, but keeping emotions all the way in check?
It's definitely hard, and I myself got a couple of those penalties during that game, and
not proud of it. That's why.
It happened,
no, come on. It happened. It's fine.
Yeah, it is tough. It is tough. And, like I said, you prepare for this moment, this game all year round. And, when you get to that point, the juices are flowing. You're kind of in that zone, and you might not hear the whistle. You might, do some extra stuff. And, it's hard when you dislike somebody and a team so much that, they say something and it kind of puts you over that edge. And it's kind of funny now, I do have friends, guys that I played with after college that went to Michigan and became good friends with them. And, it goes both ways. And, I played with a guy when I was in Canada who was at Michigan the same time that I was in Michigan State. And,
okay,
we have a fun little, during our time in Canada, we had a fun little, wear opposite. And that was Kenneth Walker year that we played together. And obviously he had to wear some Michigan State, some green to practice that day. But Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different when you're not playing in the game, but I still have that urge during this week. It's tough.
And, you aren't just, former player, but you also follow, from what I can tell on social media, you still follow this program pretty closely here. So right now, to get to this year, our countdown clock for this game at the time of recording is 5 days until kickoff. It might be different depending on when you guys are listening to this, but look, Chris, I'm going to have you fill in the blank here, because when you watch Michigan State football this year, you feel blank. It's a broad question, but so far, I know it's a tough one. It's an open-ended question, but this is what we do here on Locked On Spartans. We like to grill our finest guests that we get here. So how are you feeling?
It's tough.
Yeah.
If I had to put one word to it.
Or a few. You can mix it up.
I'll think about this one for a second. It's tough. I mean,
the silence is deafening. Yeah, I feel like
I had high hopes. I did have high hopes coming into this season. I think that, we do have some players on this team. A lot of them. We have some guys. And, it's been disappointing. I mean, I think if I have to think about it, a single word, disappointing has been, and it's not anything, I don't want to sit here and talk bad about a team and a coaching staff that,
right.
I obviously I have ties to, I don't have, a connection to this coaching staff or didn't play with any of the guys on this team, but, you would hate to see a former player come on and bash their former team. And that's not what I'm here to do. That's not what I want to do. Obviously, I am disappointed. I think a lot of Michigan State fans and former players are disappointed in, where we're at and in this new era of college football with the amount of money that goes into it and, new coaching staff in year two. And you have a lot of good, very, very good players on this team. So for us to, start the season pretty good and what we thought, 3-0, we just went to double overtime with the Boston College team that we thought was going to be pretty good. Ended up not being great.
Yeah.
It's just disappointing to be, what are we, 3-4 now?
Yeah, 3-4 right now after 7 games. That's right. Diplomatic answer, because obviously, things aren't going the way they are right now. And look, this is a question that I just have been asking myself, kind of, because I mean, on defense, there has been some issues that have been talked about by the staff. We could all see it with our eyes. One being the missed tackling, that's something that you could just witness, and then some is a little intricate within the game, but they still talk about it. Misalignment issues. So. I mean, look, and a lot of people want to scream at Joe Rossi, the defensive coordinator. Whether that's right or wrong, we don't have to debate that right now. But I'm just wondering, as a former player, how much control does a coach have over how good a team can tackle or how well they can align themselves during a game? Or is this just kind of just more on the players at this point, you think?
I think it's both. I'll go back to my time at Michigan State. Obviously, 2014, 2015, Big Ten Championship, College Football Playoff. Cotton Bowl, those teams were so locked in on the little things. From, my freshman year, you look at, the DBs that we had, for example, I'll use them, Trey Waynes. People don't talk about him enough. Curtis Drummond was one of the smartest football players I've ever been around in my life.
Gotcha.
Being a guy that's in the back end who doesn't have anything to do with the linebackers, me being a young guy and going to him pregame or, before a snap or whatever, being in there, he puts you in the right spot. Our defensive line that year, you look at the guys that were on that team and they were always in the right gap. And I think that's what this team, what I've seen in a couple of games that, teams break big runs or whatever it is. It's yes, missing tackles, it happens, but being gap sound, I think, is where we're really struggling the most is, not fitting gaps. The defense has changed since I've been there and they run something completely different. But, when you see a defensive lineman go one way, that the linebacker's got to fit that gap on the other side. And I feel like we have not been that very good at filling gaps and fitting where we're supposed to. We've had some struggles there for sure. But I think it comes down to, it's not just the coaches, it's not just the players. It's on both of them. They have to lock in. And obviously, it's something that they're working on, something that they obviously have stressed a lot over the past couple of weeks after seeing what's happened with missed tackles and not being gap sound and busted coverages and whatnot. But I think it falls on both of them. And I think you ask the players or the coaches, they're going to say the same thing. They might even, just being in that position, take the blame for it. especially a guy like Jordan Hall, who I have so much respect for. Absolute dog. Absolute dog. Being the leader that he is, I see him as a guy that, takes the blame for it, takes the brunt of it, because that's just the type of person that he is.
Yeah. All right, guys, we already know college football is back, and we can't be more excited for this weekend's game, the tailgates, the rivalry that's coming up, the energy in the stands. There's nothing like it. But sometimes it can be harder getting tickets for a game than the game itself. I mean, I've been there many a times until I found Game Time. Guys, they make saving money on tickets so easy, whether it's days or even weeks in advance. They have great flash deals in great parts of the stadium. Okay? Or let's say you're a procrastinator. I get it. I'm that some ways too. Let's say you're just walking up to the stadium at like 6:55 this week and you don't have tickets yet, but hey, you still want to save money? Open up Game Time because they have some great flash deals that lead up until kickoff, first pitch, the jump ball, the puck drop, whatever it is for any sport or concert or comedy event. Game Time is going to hook you up with those savings. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. If you could drop one thing from the Mark D'Antonio era, like the era that you played in, of course, and drop it into this year's team, is it like that attention to detail that you were just talking about, or is there something different that you remember just from being inside the locker room that you wish you could just inject into this year's team, you think?
I definitely think there's one thing, and I feel like it's not just for this week, but it's for the whole season that, something we've been missing. I feel like there's just been no fire on the sidelines, and it's been hard to watch.
Agree.
I think even in the highest of highs this season to the lowest of lows, it's just kind of, mistakes are made. It happens. And I think that we need somebody to step up and, start getting on people, a little bit more fire on the sideline. And I think it's not just me, but the fan base in general is just looking for something more in the sense of, bring some fire to this game, to the sideline. When we are struggling, it's just dead and it's hard to watch.
You're not going to see it this week. When are you ever going to see it? This has got to be the week that you see it. And Jonathan Smith kind of talked about it too, that we are going to handle it a little different, more impassioned. I don't think he's going to turn into this screaming coach out of nowhere. I think it'd be a little disingenuous, but he did talk about it. He acknowledged that it is going to be a much different prep that worked all the way back to the summer too. He even mentioned for all you guys.
Yeah. And I think it's changed over the years with this new era of college football. So I just had this conversation with my dad this morning, and it's hard because you have, and I don't think we have a lot of them, but you see a lot of guys that transfer into schools, it's their fourth school in 4 years or third school in, 5 years, whatever it is. And you kind of lose that hatred. Let's just put it that way. Me being me, born and raised, grew up in Columbus, Ohio, not afraid to say it. I grew up a Buckeye fan. I did.
Sure.
Didn't get offered a scholarship there. Obviously went to Michigan State. That hatred for Michigan that I have has been in me since the day I was born. Now, obviously, it changed a little bit more when I went to Michigan State, but I feel like with the transfer portal and the NIL and, the money that's being thrown out, I feel like there's a loss of that in this whole new era of college football. And it's hard because when I was there, you had so many guys on the team from Michigan, so many guys from Ohio, guys that just grew up hating Michigan. The Michigan guys that grew up in Michigan, that grew up Michigan fans, didn't get offered a scholarship there, they come to Michigan State, and that hatred just builds because, that's where they dreamed of going to school. It happens. I feel like we've gotten away from that. And that's hard because I feel like, with college football and, emotions running high, this game means a lot to the guys that came before them. This game means everything to the state of Michigan, to the fan base, to alumni. Obviously us being 3-4, struggling, stuff can turn around. You beat Michigan.
Oh yeah.
I think that whole mindset changes. You beat Michigan, a team in Michigan that hasn't been great this year. Let's be honest. They haven't been. Yeah. But obviously we haven't either. We've been very below average, and unfortunately, and especially, with the idea and the hopes of what we could have been coming into the season, to be sitting here now at 4-3, looking at a Michigan team that was ranked in the top 15 this year, that's struggled in the past couple of weeks. There's a lot on the table here, and we got to come ready to play.
It could change things on a dime. Kind of like how things change on a dime. Chris, 10 years ago, the 10th anniversary of Trouble with the Snap. So sorry, I kind of just dragged you through the slog there of some not so fun questions. But
it's all good.
Let's reminisce. Let's talk about the fun days when you were wearing the helmets, the shoulder pads, because, I mean, it's just a simple question, but I love hearing this from other people, even though it's been 10 whole years. Like, tell me your where were you story, because I think yours is going to be a little bit more interesting than like friends and family I talked to about this. Like you probably have a pretty cool story when it comes to this, right?
Yeah. Just going back, like leading up to the game, we obviously everybody's talked about this, but take the bus into Ann Arbor. We're outside the stadium, and Coach D, normally we pull up and like guys are already standing up. They're ready to get off the bus. They're ready to go. Let's get dressed, get on the field, warm up. Yep. Coach D turns around and he's like, sit down. I'm like, okay. It's like, just take 10 seconds to think, visualize something that you're going to do in this game to change the outcome. Visualize it, take 10 seconds, and then we'll go in. And it's kind of funny now, like we're all kind of looking at each other like, what the heck are we doing? Like, let's just get out on the field. Let's go. And then the clock hits 10 seconds, and it's like,
fate.
Okay.
It's
nuts. Here it goes. No, it's funny because, like, I felt like we dominated that game. We played really well.
Right.
Put the ball in the end zone at times, and it sucked. But I felt like, and I would have to go back and look at it, but I felt like statistically we were better in that game. Like we couldn't put points on the board, and that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. That's how football is. It's a game of inches, and so obviously we're down. There's 10 seconds left. It was kind of one of those things. We're on that sideline. We know it's going to be crazy if Michigan wins, and ball gets snapped, and it was almost like put your head down, start heading to the tunnel.
Right.
And then it was like, oh, hold on. Jalen Watts-Jackson, the legend himself, gets the ball, and the rest is history.
That's a little similar, actually not similar at all to my story, because I did the same, put my head down, but to put beer bottles back in the trash, not to go to a locker room that was about to be incredibly sad, but that had to have been euphoric in the locker room. Like, did it just feel like you were floating the entire time you were in the locker room? Or what?
Just that run across the field to where Jalen was unfortunately injured in that play.
Writhing in pain, right? Yeah.
Crazy. That's another completely different crazy aspect of this whole thing. It's like nobody knows that he's actually injured. You have the camera over top of him, and guys are shaking him, and he's throwing the ball like, get off of me. I'm like writhing in pain. But, that run, 50-some yards across the field and to that end zone right in front of their student section, just like, oh, man, it was like an out-of-body experience. Just absolutely insane. But there's literally nothing better in the game of football than going to your rival stadium, and at the end of the game it's just nothing but silence and go green, go white chants,
just like it was in 2017. And look, were you as surprised? I've asked a few former players this question too. Brian Lewerke's been one of them. Are you surprised Michigan decided to throw the ball 35 times in a game where literally everyone in the entire state knew it was going to be a monsoon in the second half? Because I'm sitting there wondering, why are we airing the ball out like it's sunny and 85 right now? I'm glad. I
don't know. It's kind of crazy too. I don't know if I've ever seen that amount of rain in that short period of time.
That was insane.
It was an ungodly amount it was unbelievable how much rain came down. But yeah, it is surprising. To an extent, it's Michigan. What do you expect?
Sure, stuck in their ways. They're going to do it their way. Yeah, right.
Quarterback that's not very good at throwing the ball throws the ball 35 times. It is what they couldn't run the ball against us when we have a dominant front seven, and that's really what we were very good that year up front. And obviously, when they threw the ball, they couldn't. And we had 4 or 5 picks in that game. I can't remember.
I think it was 5 turnovers.
Four interceptions, and Joe Bacci forced a fumble.
That's right.
Kind of surprising, kind of not, but great win. Wasn't pretty, but it worked.
Didn't have to be. Chris, we're going to let you go on this last question. Broad question. Simplest one to end it. Favorite rivalry moment when you were playing here? I mean, I know we just touched on a few of them, but if there's just one specific one that you got, lay it on us.
Yeah. This is going to sound funny, and this might not be my favorite one, but kind of just a crazy – my freshman year, I've been, obviously, like I said, grew up in Ohio, hating Michigan. Mm-hmm. I finally get on the field. I'm playing special teams, and I get kicked out of the game 2 minutes into the game. Like the first year that targeting was a thing,
right?
For a god-awful targeting call. I mean, it was embarrassing. Like I think the bottom of my face mask like touched the top of his helmet because he caught a punt and then tried to sit on his butt because he saw me coming.
Yeah.
Awful call. Anyways, I don't even know if I would have been able to finish the game. Like, if you see the picture of it, I took a knee to the shin, and my whole leg swelled up like massive. Like, I obviously got kicked out of the game, went to the locker room. I got in the shower, and I looked down, and I'm like limping around, like, damn, my leg hurts. I'm like, my leg is massive. What the heck happened? I didn't even realize. Like, I got up and limped off the field. I knew that it hurt, but it was only like 5 minutes later. But that walk from our sideline and down the sideline to the tunnel, you know, the cheering, and obviously I think we got an interception or a touchdown like right as I was going into the tunnel. Just a pretty cool experience. But for me growing up, hating Michigan, finally getting in my first Michigan game, and I get kicked out like 2 to 4 minutes into the game. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, oh, what are the odds?
That sounds right, though. You know,
it's like the first year that targeting is called. Like, it's a penalty, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, and I get kicked out of the game, the biggest game of the year.
I don't know. There's something to that, though. You grow up hating Michigan your whole life. It only seems right that you just get ejected immediately. Like, that's just how much hatred goes through your blood. Now, granted, it was on a technicality. You probably wish it was cooler, but I mean, hey, ejection. That's pretty badass.
I'll take it.
By your name. We'll take it, man. So, Chris, cannot thank you enough, man. This has been a great chat. So, guys, we're gonna have way more of this for Rivalry Week. We got Graham Couch on tomorrow. Chris Castellani. We'll get into the Michigan State X's and O's later on this week. But Chris, can't thank you enough, my man. You're the best.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. You're the best. And
go
guys,
green.
Hey, go white. You guys are all the best. Love you all. See you next time.